The Who. When The Who put out Quadrophenia, they were a solid 10 years into their career. And as we all know, when you're in a band or you're in a relationship, the relationship doesn't always end where it started. The dynamic is constantly changing and you constantly have to update the connection between you and whoever. But when it's a band and the relationship is with 4 guys who are all, like, in their own way, peacocks strutting across the stage, trying to command the attention and arrest control of the band. Let's throw in tons of money, and wherever you go, people fawning over you, wanting your autograph. Tons of drugs. Anything you want, it'll be here, it'll be in the next city. Years and years and years of this cycle tumbling over and over. You can't be unaffected by that process. When you're a band like The Who and you can make tons of money for each concert and each album, there is a lot of pressure to stay together. Everyone's life in the band depends on it, their families. But then you have all these other people that don't really, they're not part of the band at all. It wasn't those 4 guys that started out in Shepherd's Bush. You know, everyone's got an interest in it and vying for their own control. If there's no money involved, the band just breaks up, no matter how good. People get sick of each other. And if you don't have that money as the lubricant to keep everyone happy and say, okay, well, I'll deal with this thing so I can get this thing. My name's francapitanelli. If you're digging this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications button. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can find a link in the About section of my channel page and help keep this channel going. Pete's obviously the leader. He writes all the songs. He's the spokesperson of the band. Without him, they only have an album's worth of songs over however many years their career lasted. All these things that we think about The Who and the songs and the ideals, the ideas behind the lyrics, that's all Pete. You know, he's gotta have that sense of control. He wants everyone to know that he's the guy. But if he was to break out onto his own, which he does, his solo stuff is only a fraction as big as The Who. This giant band. So he's really kind of tied to these guys.
It felt to me as though we were drifting apart. So my first mission, my first part of the brief that I gave myself was replace Tommy as a performing vehicle. That was it.
He comes up with an idea for a song and he records it himself. He records the drums, the bass, keyboards, vocals, guitar, obviously, and he has a whole thing that is just, you know, a nice tight package that the song comes in and he's able to present. This is my song. This is the demo of therealme, which is one of the first songs on Quadrophenia. It's the second song.
I went back to the doctor to get another shrink. I sit and tell him about my weekend, but he never betrayed what he thinks.
I can't help but notice that this sounds a lot like the intro to You Better You Bet. It's got that like arpeggio drum machine sound going on, and then it starts out with the same chord. So he definitely has like a method that he works out. He gets one of these arpeggios going and he starts playing along to it. And as it kicks in, he starts to play the drums and everything else.
Can you see the real me? Doctor!
He brings it to his band. Immediately, he's got another guy singing who has got a better voice than him as far as fronting a band. When you're in a band and you're the singer and the guitar player, that's 2 times the pressure to keep those 2 little tiny vocal cords that the whole crowd is depending on, even though he's giving up control of the singing to Roger, he still kind of resents a little bit. And Roger is resenting Pete because he's got to sing his lyrics.
Working with him was, he'd have these wonderful little kernels of ideas, but then he'd want to pitch them and make them into stories. But we got the essence of it. This guy's got all the personalities of every member of the band, and it's just about this one guy.
So right off the bat, between the singer and the song, there's a little snag right there. It takes a while for Roger to find his voice. And when he finally finds it, it's with Tommy, Pete Townshend's brainchild. This masterpiece that up until this point, The Who hasn't really broken through like they should have. But finally, when Tommy comes out, kaboom! They're super huge. And Roger identifies with Tommy. He becomes Tommy. He puts on that jacket, and now Pete starts to resent it even more because Roger becomes the embodiment of the ideal that he had for Tommy. Roger can't handle how loud John is. It makes sense because Roger's singing, he's singing lyrics that Pete wrote on top of it, which is kind of rubbing him the wrong way. He's got to like sing about Pete's problems. But the bass player is so loud he can't even hear himself sing. And they get in tons of fights over that.
Usually Roger couldn't hear himself singing. It happened on pretty well every tour. Roger just kept telling me to turn down every night. He'd tell me to turn down, and I'd turn down, and he'd say that's better, and I'd turn back up again, and he wouldn't notice. He says it at every gig. At one point at the Houston Astrodome, he shouted at me on stage to turn down. I took my bass off, threw it on the ground and said, "You play the effing thing." I stormed off and walked backstage, and I couldn't find the stairs, so I jumped off the back of the stage, and it was 12 feet off the ground.
And while they're over there getting pissed at each other over that, Pete's getting upset with Keith that he can't just play a straight beat.
What he wouldn't do is play and I'd be going boom, boom, bang, bang, boom. But somebody had to.
But Pete shouldn't be upset. He's getting all the publishing for the songwriting. The band is splitting everything for the shows, for the albums, for the merch, for everything on down the line, except for the thing that brings in the most money, the publishing, the songwriting. So Pete gets all that. So you know there's gotta be some resentment. And conversely, if he was gonna share that money with them, he would resent them, you know, because he's at home working on the song while Keith Moon's out driving his Bentley into the swimming pool.
Have you, all of you, made enough money to stop work this afternoon tonight?
Goodbye, and so you like that.
Yes, I have. You have.
We became rich a lot later than I expected.
John Entwistle, he invented how to play the bass.
He wanted to be a lead guitarist, but and could have been a lead guitarist, of course, but decided to defer. You know, he knew I could play really good guitar, and we were in a band where Roger was the lead guitarist. And Roger was not a bad player at all. He wasn't a great player, but he was a good guitar player. And we were in his band, so John had to defer and pick up something else. So he picked up the bass and started to tinker about with the bass. And you very quickly got the feeling that, okay, he's playing the bass, but he's not really playing the bass. You know, this is something else. And what he realised was that he had the power to change, he could change the instrument.
The bass was a new thing. Somebody had to like do the grunt work and figure out, what do you do with this thing? How does it best fit into a rock band?
The bass guitar was a relatively new. It was invented probably by Fender or somebody, you know, Leo Fender, or one of those guys probably decided to invent the bass. The bass appears, and it's already, it's a new, brand new thing. He started to change it.
He not only figured it out, but he went eons past that in his style. It's like his style is so unbelievably adept and effortless. When you look at him doing it, it's kind of hard to piece it all together. Like, how is what he's doing creating the sound that's coming out? he's basically a lead guitar player on the bass. And he's not going to hold back at all once they hit the stage, or the studio for that matter. So you know that Pete's got to present that a little bit. He's supposed to be the guitar player doing all the flashy stuff. But if the bass player is doing all that stuff, then he's got to really hold it down. Him and the drummer. Whoops. The drummer is more of a show-off than anybody in the band. He can't even bear for a second that people aren't looking at him. And he backs it up, just like the other guys. They all back it up. But when you get them all playing at the same time, you know that Keith and John, the rhythm section, the guys that are supposed to be kind of like holding it all together, so the star, the singer, and the guitar player that writes the songs can get all the glory. But it ain't gonna work out like that. This rhythm section is going to take over the song and make it better in a way that's gonna bother the songwriter, because he brought in this nice, simple song that makes all the sense in the world. And right off the bat, these guys are just gonna go crazy and turn it into a solo. From what I understand, this is take one. So you take a song like "therealme," Townsend demos it, it's perfect. He's trying to put Tommy behind him. He's got this new concept of quadrophenia, which is basically about this kid that has a bipolar disorder, and he has the embodiment of the 4 Who members inside of him that he's constantly struggling with. What a nightmare that must be. So Pete brings in his tight little song, and these guys immediately go crazy. Now, the focal point of this song, it's not the vocals anymore, which normally in rock songs, once the singer starts singing, he's the focal point. But since you've got 4 superstars in this band, you don't ever know who's gonna take over at any one point. And for this song, with the singing as great as it is, and the lyrics, the lyrical content, totally don't even concentrate on it anymore, because this bass guitar is going crazy and the drums are going just as crazy behind him. But it creates this thing that Pete Townshend couldn't come up with himself. He couldn't come up with it and put it forth on his own and have it be as wonderful and beautiful as this thing. Sorry, Who fans are very sensitive when you talk about any one member in a negative way. I'm a Who fan. I love Pete Townshend's solo stuff. It doesn't come close. The greatest Pete Townshend solo stuff doesn't come close to the greatest Who stuff. All of their solo albums, they don't come close to the Who. They went on twice as long after they said we're doing our farewell tour as they had been together in the first place. You couldn't not. It's this beast that constantly needs to be fed and gives back to the people.
But you see, the other thing is that when these arguments happened about volume, and Roger would say, John just has to turn down, I would say, well, in a normal world, yeah, but this isn't a normal world. This is the Who. That's John Entwistle. I think, okay, these relationships become like marriages in a way. There was a strong competitive thing in the band, definitely. But what's interesting about the Who is I think we found that it doesn't look this way, but we found quite a healthy way of dealing with this stuff.
And these are the band dynamics of the Who. You guys deal with all the problems amongst yourselves, and we'll take this good old music that you keep giving us, That's it for now. I'm Francapitanelli. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and press the notifications button if you haven't already. And if you'd like to donate to this channel and keep it going, because that is a thing where the channel can only keep going if the person running the channel can keep going financially. So if you want to help this channel out, it would be greatly appreciated. And you can do that in the About section of my channel info page. Plus all my merchandise and records and music are available on the website totallyintothesound.com. See you next time.